Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Battle Buddy Podcast. If you run a business, thinking about running a business, um, everybody's in the digital age, but especially if you're running a business, you want to pay attention today. I've got Jared Ledbetter on from Carbon Digital today. We're going to talk about not only the digital side, but branding, outreach, operations, people, some different things like that about running a business and everything in business today is very digital in nature. Technology runs everything that we do. So, if that sounds like something of interest to you, you definitely want to pay attention. Make sure you go like and subscribe and follow the show too, and make sure you do with my guest as always. Show notes and everything will have all of his links and all that stuff in there. So, without further ado.
Welcome to the Battle Buddy Podcast with Keith McKeever.
Welcome to the podcast, Jared. Glad to have
Hey,
you on.
thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. That's always good. I think we've talked a couple times over the years,
Yep.
and always good to talk and pick your brain on different things. So before we get into all the digital side of things and the business and everything you do, let's get a little bit of a backstory. Who is Jared? I know you served in the Corps. What'd you do in the Corps? Those kind of things. Give us a little backstory.
Yeah, sure. So, did 4 years in the Marine Corps, supply admin, 3043. The short version on all of that is I got thrust into running a whole warehouse and half the admin shop by myself my first day in the fleet. So, needless to say, I picked up a few tricks of the trade while I was there. And that kind of thrust me on a career of continuing to pursue supply and logistics. I have actually 15 years under my belt right now of supply and logistics. And then on the side, back in like 2012, I had a need for a website, and I was like, I'm smart enough to figure this out. And so that kind of set me down the trajectory of, turning that into a business and an agency and really doing what I can to take things to the next level, not only for me, but for other businesses as well.
Yeah, because you see all kinds of things out there. It's
Oh, yeah.
choose my words carefully. This may offend some listeners, but a Facebook page is not a website.
So true. So true.
I brought that up a couple times.
Offend everyone. Offend them all. Your social media is not a website. I would even go as far as to say your free Google My Business site that you give you is almost not qualified as a website.
It's like this. It's like a spider web, right? Like to me, the Google is in the middle of the universe, and everything
Yeah.
else is just the little fingers or whatever off of that. You have to have all these little parts. They all have to connect and sync and all that stuff. But yeah, that's the fun stuff of working in a digital age. If you were in business 20 years ago, the challenges that you would have had would have been totally different. Creating a custom website, like I'm not saying
Challenges
it's
are
best,
different, but the principles are the same, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
the principles of 1900 running a general store still apply to today, right? Do good work, be courteous to your customers, provide value for them. All of those things still apply today. We just have, more advanced mediums for connecting with people. And that's a huge difference that a lot of people neglect to actually leverage.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As you said that and thinking general store, I'm like, yeah, I mean, from bookkeeping to advertising to getting the word out to managing employees, managing your books, all the inventory,
Yeah.
all this stuff is basically the same. Yeah, we just got different tools, and it changes so fast. I mean, I've been in my business for almost 10 years. You've been doing your thing for quite a while. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you see those changes, and it changes pretty frequently. So,
Yeah.
I think this is a good one, especially to kind of kick off. You know, we're recording this before 2023, but your episode's going to be here to begin first month of 2023. So,
Happy
good
New
thing
Year.
for people in the slower times of the winter to like, hey, listen to some of this stuff, and if this is you and it offends you, then you probably have some things in your business you need to work on. So,
Yeah, I've not really lived my life by how many people are offended. I just call it like I see it, and I'm very direct. And people either respond to that or they don't. And if you don't respond to it, then you probably won't be a client. So that kind of helps filter people out.
hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I had a conversation at like a roundtable discussion, um, I don't know, a couple days ago, and something was brought up, and I said, hey, wait a minute, we're all in business. You don't have to bring somebody on as a customer. if you get
Yeah.
the red flags, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, whatever, you don't have to do business with that person. You know what? Think about the stress of not doing business, this stress you save by not doing business with that person if you've got those red flags that are flying up. So,
Yeah, for sure. And marketing people don't really make things easy because they like to apply marketing terminology to cut through the conversation fast. But what you're talking about is a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead, right? And the whole premise of that is, are they going to be a good customer? Are we going to work good together? Can I help them? All of those questions you still need to ask yourself. But yeah, a lot of marketing people haven't really helped the rest of the world because they like their acronyms and their specific terminology for things. And so that confuses a lot of people as well. And either these words or you don't. That's where Google is your friend.
well, I think if you're running a small business like we do, like you have to wear multiple hats. But if you get into a large enough company, those two different departments are sitting in different cubicles, maybe in a different building. So
Yeah,
they're not talking to each other. They have differences of principles and philosophies and whatnot. But back to your business, Carbon Digital. So
sure,
when did you start that? What kind of services do you offer? Because I've got some things I want to ask you about some of the things I found on your website.
sure. So I started doing this professionally back in 2014 um, under the brand Fighter Solutions. We specialized at the time in martial arts and fitness lifestyle brands. And then in 2017, we rebranded as Carbon Digital and niched up, meaning we got out of our specificity to be able to bring in additional clientele across multiple industries and verticals. In terms of services, the primary services that we do are web design and development and search engine optimization. Those two are our prime real estates. But we also do, web application development. We, advertising, marketing, business development, branding, all of those full marketing service type of things. We pretty much do it all. It's just a matter of which one of these services is going to best benefit you the most at the time that we actually connect.
Understandable. I've had a few people on now that we're 80 plus episodes into the podcast talking about
Okay.
SEO. So that's why I was looking at your website. I was like, ooh, some questions on branding, outreach, operations, and people. You kind of have some different things broken down. But before we get to that, because I think everybody knows you should, I think in the back of their mind anyway, everybody knows they should have a website.
Yeah.
Everybody may not know exactly how SEO works, but everybody knows that it's what makes everything work.
Right.
It's how you rank and all that stuff. Some people can do it, some people can't. But I thought it was really interesting. There's these other tie-ins to the business that affect your business, I would say arguably just as much or more if you're not taking care of those little things. But what are the two major pain points that you see when you talk to people? Especially in these small businesses, what they're running into.
Well, going back a couple of years, I actually did over the course of the summer, I talked on the phone for almost 200 hours to people, free of charge, trying to help them out, provide more value, trying to ascertain that same question. What's the answer to this question? What do people need? What are their problems? And from that, I ended up developing a business foundational framework because of that. And it's always been the same problems across the board. And the step one of that framework is your branding, which under that branding limelight that goes into, your logo, your imagery, the different colors that you use and do they complement or contrast each other. And then from there, it goes into deeper things like, what do you stand for? What's your message to the people? And how do you communicate that effectively? And so a lot of times people will just take the Italian spaghetti approach and just throw stuff up against the wall and see what sticks, and that's never going to work. But if you focus on your branding and make your brand the central focus of everything that you do, because you were talking earlier about how Google's the center of the web, right? when it comes to your business, branding is the center of the web. And a lot of people skip that. They try to put something else in there and they screw it up. So that has to be the initial focus of everything that you do. And then if you do it right, which we've been promoting StoryBrand for a few years now, if you follow that framework, you can actually take that and leverage that against everything else that you do. You know, I'm writing up this social media post. Does this social media post about service A, B, and C align with my brand message? Yes or no? No, then we're going to go fix it. And you can use that across all mediums, your email marketing, your website, your social media, even, you know, you have like one of those text chain community things. Everything can be used as a litmus test against your branding to make sure you're consistently on message. And that's one of the most impactful things that you can do. So following that up with number 2, you know, obviously things like do SEO, run some ads. Those things are kind of a given. No one really knows the in-depth details of those, but one of the top 5 principles of what made millionaires was consistency. And so if you're not consistent in your approach, the way that you do your work and support your customers and basically do everything, you know, from cradle to grave, if you're not consistent in everything that you do, then you're a waste of space. And as sad as that is, it's the truth, right? And in 20 years, are you going to be here? No, because you're not consistent. And people have a hard time grasping that.
That's a really good. I like 2 things you said there, especially on the first one with the branding. Just, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall, because I think if viewers or listeners think about it, maybe they're not doing it in their business. But
Yeah.
you don't have to look that far to find somebody who's doing that.
No.
You really don't have to look very far at all. Just,
And, you know, I worked for the government for a long time, and anybody who's a veteran is going to know what DERMO is, but it's basically the military junkyard. And those guys say all the time, well, we're unique. And I see business owners saying all the time, well, we're unique. No, you're not. You're the same as everyone else out there. You have the same list of problems, the same areas of concern that you need to focus on. So go and do it. And people don't want to do it. And I mean, really, once we developed this foundational framework, you know, lights went off, pistons firing, and you really start seeing this more in depth. Like once I developed this, my eyes were open. I'm like, holy crap! Everyone's making the same mistakes across every industry, no matter what. And it's like, how do you fix the world? You know, you can't. So just kind of take it one client at a time, because I can't help everybody.
You know, there's one industry that jumps out to me, and it's the industry I'm in, which is real estate. And that's one of those, everybody's like, hey, look at me, I'm different.
Well, I've seen
and a good majority of agents don't even have profiles, don't even have pictures or bios on their profiles on platforms like Realtor.com or Zillow or Trulia. At the very basic, you should have your picture and contact information and a little bio about you. And it's amazing to me how many don't. And yet they think that their business is special, that they provide this outstanding level of service. It's like, you can't even bother yourself to go do those things. You know, and that's just my industry. So
it's another thing too, that everyone thinks real estate agents are rich, or real estate agents. Everyone thinks they're rich. That's why you see every one of them wearing a suit in every one of their photos, right? But there are the few people that do things that are off the wall, and a few people that do things that are kind of crazy. Like I'll give you 2 examples. I saw this real estate agent profile sharing like TV show clips. They were uploading them to their profile, like something you would see with, you know, a foreign name randomly thing posting, you know, Game of Thrones clips. Why? You know, how does that even remotely relate to what you're doing? It's irrelevant by a long shot, and yet people are doing it. Whereas the other one that I saw, I'm kind of big into fishing, and there's this guy. His name's Brant, and he's also a real estate agent. And so he has a dedicated page for all his fishing stuff, but then he also will put some of his fishing stuff on his real estate page just to show, like, hey, this is my hobby. It's what I love doing.
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to
mean, you
take
gotta
care
show
of
that
you, of
personal
course,
connection.
but this is me.
But if I don't
And
answer,
that,
I'm out on the fishing boat.
yeah, exactly. I might be on a fishing trip, but hey, I'll call you when I get back. And you know those things that show that you're raw and real are what people naturally are going to be pulled to. And so that's the exact reason why I stopped editing videos years ago, because you see this stuff, the whole world is photoshopped and doctored. Not too many people are raw and real anymore. And so I stopped doing it, and the response has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that all the time. Like, just stop with the fancy editing or the, even sometimes like the branding photos and just be authentically you. Yeah, it's kind of the
Yeah.
term that you
I
hear
mean,
all the time. Just
there's
be
stuff that you
authentically
can
you.
do to, a lot of those thumbnails from like YouTube. Some of them are clickbait and some of them are tasteful, right? And you can kind of tell which ones are which. But I'm at a point in life where I don't care. I don't even make thumbnails. Like, you get what you get. Either you're here to see the content or you're not. And so I've got videos I've posted, 2, 3 years ago, still getting views and comments. And it's just because it's good content. People have a problem, they find a solution. I'm that solution.
Yeah, good
And
content, good title, good description that pulls it up in searches, and people are like, "Hey, there you go."
yep, that's exactly right. And it's no different with even SEO. Good quality content and proper optimization is going to outlive whatever phase Google's in right now, because they're going to go through their iterations. They're going to make changes, but if you do it right the first time, you don't have to keep redoing it. You don't have to rewrite it 10 times. You might rewrite it 2 or 3 times over the course of 10 years, but you don't have to do it annually.
Yeah,
That's a big
it's just
difference.
it's like just you got the plan, you got everything dialed in. All you have to do is shift your fire. Oh,
Yep.
okay, they changed this. All right, well, here's how we're going to adapt it. And just plug it in
Yep.
and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Because that
And,
kind of leads to that second thing, consistency. Because I think that might be the most brilliant thing I've heard all day, because that's incredibly true. There's so many people
it
that will
can't be.
just stop it. Just different things like, well, it didn't work. I tried it 5 times and it didn't work. I tried it for 2 weeks and it wasn't successful.
Well,
Uh,
there's some factors in that. There's two schools of thought, right? Because some things are genuinely going to take time to master, right? And then some things follow the definition of insanity, where if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, you're going to lose your mind, right? So
Absolutely.
SEO and mastering any type of task takes time, whether it's your email marketing or your social media or doing your own SEO or writing content that actually engages with people. Those things are going to take time to master. And if it don't work, pivot and try again. Whereas, like you said, if you keep doing the same thing 5 days a week for 2 weeks and no change, there's probably something wrong there. You need to reassess.
Absolutely. Some things I think some things do take a lot longer. You don't have to master them. You just have to do certain things longer, like marketing in some
Yeah.
ways. Like, not everybody's going to enjoy your content, but you should be more consistent about what you put out there, and you should change your expectations on the impact of them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna put this video up and be like, oh, this thing's gonna go viral.
Yeah.
The
No.
odds are stacked way against your favor of it
I
going
expect
viral.
absolutely nothing to go viral every time. You set your expectations low, but have a plan, right? The old military theme of, plan for the worst, hope for the best. That's That's the only thing you can really do. And so with,
Abs-
like, hey, I hope I get one click off this thing. Sweet. Be excited about every win, no matter how big or small it is.
Well, that's one thing. It kept me going with this podcast. Now going on, season 3 and 80 plus
Nice.
episodes. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, some episodes are going to perform better than others. Some of them are going to get
Yeah.
shared more than others. Some of them are going to be more valuable content to a wider audience than others. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. But it's the longevity of everything that maybe it helps somebody this year, maybe it helps somebody 6 years from now. Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah.
As long as it's
Freaking.
valuable and somebody's like, oh, hey, that's totally me. I could use this, and the
Yeah.
light bulb goes off.
There's a guy named goes by the name of Andy Frizella. Has a podcast that used to be called the MF CEO. Now it's called Real AF, and it started out as like a business development type podcast. And so I heard one episode somewhere in the middle, and I was like, "What? Oh hell no! I have to start this at the beginning and find out everything else that's happened." And that's what I did. I went back to the beginning of time for their podcast and listened to every episode.
Wow.
And every one of them was amazing, and I loved everything about it. And I did the same thing with like Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Went to the beginning of his podcast too. Just started at day one. Let's do
Now,
this.
that guy will blow your mind in multiple ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's smart people, and then there's guys like him.
Yeah.
They make the rest of us look like idiots.
He makes smart people look dumb. If you're talking about guys like Sheldon Cooper, it's probably not too hard, but still, he's levels beyond levels.
I couldn't agree more with that. So when it comes to the branding stuff,
Yeah.
Images, audience, ads, things like that, video. Where are you seeing people go wrong the most in those areas?
Yeah. So let's start with something basic: colors, right? You can actually look it up. We even have some articles on our website about this. There's an actual philosophy of color theory, and that is how a color ties to an emotion, which helps people feel a certain way and react a certain way. And so each color has that designation. And so when you're looking at what do I want my brand to say? What do I want it to stand for? Colors play a role in this, right? If you're trying to say, I want to show, I want to sell, teddy bears, right? Something cute and cuddly. I'm selling teddy bears. You go down the path of like black and red, you're way off target every time. Because black and red is more synonymous with like Slipknot than it is teddy bears, right?
Yeah, good point.
Maybe
Yeah.
kill the teddy bear, not sell the teddy bear.
Yeah, you
And
want
so-
that warmth factor.
Yeah,
Reds
exactly.
can give
And-
warmth, but it's also could have other factors to it.
Right. And so if you were to get rid of the black and soften up the red and then bring it closer to a pink and then leverage that with other colors, that's a different story, right? And so that's a spectrum of the colors. And every color has its own area. And it's not just about picking one color. Yeah, of course there's a primary base color. But then there's accent colors, right? So if you pick a red and a red orange, those are too close together. So you need something that's going to offset that in an opposing fashion, kind of like a yin and yang. Your top two colors need to be an opposing force and still present a consistent messaging in whatever it is you're trying to do. And so that's where a lot of people falter, is they pick the wrong colors because they don't know what they want to say. And that's a huge thing.
So since we're on the
that's-
topic, and I've got my logo up in the corner, what do you think of my podcast logo and the colors?
Okay. Colors, I like them. I like that you have the highlighter yellow, really big and bold. I like that you're using the font for the Battle Buddy podcast. I like that stencil font. It works really well with the silhouette behind it. The other stuff that's on the right side, the microphone and the little text under that, that's kind of a waste of space. I would cut those two out and blow up that silhouette behind the scenes.
I do have an alternate version of that, but that's exactly what I did. That's and my wife
Yeah.
created that in Canva, and that's Black Ops 1 is the font style.
Yep.
And I was like, that's perfect. That's as close to military type font as possible.
Yep.
And I went with the yellow, because I told her, I was like, I want yellow, and I didn't
Because
want
of glow straps?
I don't want like a reflective bell. Yeah, all kinds.
Yeah.
More or less, just I wanted to get attention. As I looked through podcasts before
Yeah.
starting mine, I was like, nobody's using bright yellow. Nobody's using really super bright colors to attract
Right.
attention. And I want to be bold.
It stands out as a warning.
And I want people to be
Yep.
like, oh, what's this yellow? Like, I want the eyes to pull to it and see what it is. And then you got, it's pretty self-explanatory, the silhouette and the flag. And it should speak
It's-
to almost anybody. It's a military and veteran type podcast.
Anyone who's been an oath taker in their career is going to instantly recognize that. Everyone else that you might be trying to bring in outside of that initial audience base might not get that right out the gate.
Yeah, that's all right. My whole audience is for the military and veteran community anyway.
Well, then you're
And
golden,
spouses
man.
and kids and all that stuff. But yeah, no, that was So I appreciate those thoughts on there because
Yeah, man,
I can
and
see
that
on
kind
the
of rolls into the
microphone.
the second half of that branding imagery is the actual text, right? The fonts that you choose, they have to complement that as well. You're doing veterans, military theme. You got your stencil-like font there. It plays nicely into what you're doing. If you went with a little cursive script type font, everyone would say, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah, no, that would be like. What,
Whereas
that'd be
that stands
confusing.
out, and it's very clear and obvious what that is, and that's exactly what you want. There's a book. I hate reading books that are not, anything that's nonfiction. I really despise reading. It's really hard for me to do. Fiction, fake stories, sci-fi, action thrillers, all day. Anything that's real is really hard for me to read, and that's
funny, 'cause
why
I'm the total opposite.
and that's why for me to be able to get through some of these actual books is an achievement and a half for me. But there's one that's called Don't Make Me Think, and it talks about marketing, branding, and call to action within the marketing sphere, right? And so you have less than a second to get people to understand everything about you. Just like in an HR department, you have less than 1 second for them to look at your resume and be impressed. It's no different with consumers. And it used to be longer, but the declining attention span of the world has gotten shorter, and it's less than a second. It's not even half a second. People know instantly whether or not they will understand you or not. And some people will pause, take the time to do a little digging to really find out. Most people will not. So
That's
if
why
you,
some people who are on TikTok who have a business and they start off by saying, "Hey, I'm John Doe and I'm with such and such company and this is my title and this is what I do." You've already lost them. That's why they don't get any. They don't like
right,
any
and that's
likes,
exactly
comments,
why
shares.
all of those stupid dancing videos are freaking going viral. Is because people have lost their minds in the sense of they need something to grab their attention. But the problem is that attention span has gotten so low, it needs to keep pulling you in. And so it's like a tug of war of the psychological warfare of your mind. And that's why videos like that do so well, is because of the way society is now. But that ties directly into your business. Like, if I didn't know anything about the military and I see your logo, Battle Buddy Podcast, that's cool. Buddy's going to battle, right? No, they're not going to know what that is. And either that sounds like something they're going to be interested in because they played Call of Duty, or it's not, right? That's what it boils down to. They play
now I'm
Halo
kinda
or
curious.
Call of Duty, and they know, and they want to learn more, or they don't.
Kind
and
of
it's
just wonder how
really-
many civilian Call of Duty warriors that we have that listen to the show.
I suspect it's the lot of them. Yeah.
There's bound to be a couple at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's some good stuff. I see some logos and stuff out there sometimes that just kind of
What the
blow
hell
my
is that?
mind.
Yep.
Yeah, or people tie things in. I'm trying to think of an example, but people like tie design elements or things in that it's like
It's
if your
obvious for
business
you because
changes,
you know your industry, but it's not obvious to everyone else.
yeah. But if
Yep.
their business changes or goes to a different direction, they'd have to change the logo. It's
Right.
not universal enough.
Right.
You know, it's
That's
not
also
a personal
why.
brand either.
Yeah, that's exactly why. When it came time to rebrand, I intentionally chose to rebrand as an agency instead of rebranding as myself. And the purpose of that is initially it was to look bigger, right? This is back in 2017 or so. The idea was to look bigger than I am. Okay, that works, but at the same time is I want to disconnect me from my brand, right? You'll hear a lot of people say that I am my brand. Well, yeah, that's true, and I
Yeah, but
live.
you don't always want that tied to your business.
Well, I
Everybody does
live
have
and
their own
breathe
personal brand.
websites, dude. I live and breathe code. I do it every day, a lot throughout the day. But that doesn't mean that I'm the only one who can do that work. And so that is where I intentionally decided to brand as an agency so that I could build a team around me, build my own spider web and divvy up those tasks and hand them out and get other people on board. And it did what it was supposed to do. And at one point, I even had a team of 12 working for me. Not anymore, but I used to.
Yeah, yeah. I think
COVID kind of plays a role in things.
yeah,
Yeah,
COVID made a lot of changes to a lot of industries.
of
So,
course.
um, that kind of goes to. I just want to go into the next topic of outreach,
Sure.
and I think this is another area where people have a lot of problems. I'm sure you've seen some things, but where are people really missing the ball or missing the mark when it comes to outreach through people? Because I get those. I get the LinkedIn messages like everybody else. I
Yep.
get the random texts like,
Hmm.
"Oh, we got this or we got that," or could in real estate's really bad at it. Oh, I'm such with so and so with the company. We do referrals for X amount. Or do we might have some people in your area? Are you interested? And it's like all right, you didn't tell me
Yeah.
what company
So,
you are. Like anything. You just you're with a company and you do referrals. Like what?
yeah, the reality is that your options for connecting with people are highly limited, right? You got phone, email, text, social media, and walking into their door. There is nothing else. The difference in all of that is how you leverage it, right? Because you can leverage uh, triggers to send out text messages and emails and even social media messages. You can leverage automation to do some of those things for you, uh, at least in the initial stages. And whether you do that or not is really up to you. Whether or not you know you have the time and the capability to structure these things, but also whether or not that's actually part of your brand, right? I know people who will never use automation for not only email marketing, but for social media messages and text messages. They refuse to use automation, period, because they want that interpersonal communication to be real every time.
Well, because you can read it. I mean, you
You
know when
can,
you're reading it.
yeah, you can tell when it's a canned response, and doing this work for years, I can tell when there's a canned response, but I can also tell even when I'm talking to people and they're trying to sell me. I can tell when people are trying not to sell me to sell me. I had a call with a guy
That detector
today.
goes off. You're like,
Yeah, I
I
had a
smell
call
it.
with the guy today, and just the way he was asking the questions, it's like, okay, dude, I know exactly what you're doing. I've written this script before for other people, but I'm going to play your game because I want to see where you go with it. And for me, it's I either hit a brick wall, I'm like, nah, screw this, I'm out, or I go along with it to see what happens because I'm curious. Because what are they doing that maybe I can adopt to my own efforts and principles and clients? But
That's one way of looking at it. I've
yeah,
strung people out like that before, just to be like, I don't want this to sound bad, but I
I've,
don't want to
I've
waste their time because they're just doing a job. They're just trying to make sales. I get it.
yeah,
But
and
if they piss me off,
honestly,
I'll keep them going just to waste a little bit of their time.
I've I've gotten to the point if it's a spam call, I have no tolerance for a spam call personally. Will I hire an agency to go make 1,000 phone calls a day on my behalf? Yes. Will I wait for people if they call me? No. I have a zero tolerance for spam for me, but I have no problem putting that on other people. So it's kind of a weird thing that I have.
Well,
But
it's the
I mean, you
you
can
put it
tell
out there
that your
enough,
information is
it's gonna
being
work.
sold.
Oh yeah.
Your information is being sold every hour of every day, so it's never going to stop. So you can
Well, the only way to
either
stop it is to not have your information online, and good luck doing that.
yeah you'd have to shut down Google. I don't see that happening anytime
Yeah,
soon.
no, you're not gonna. I mean,
Right.
yeah, you won't pull back what's already out there, but you can't really even unplug yourself completely and not have new information out there about
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Nobody's
There's
gonna
even
go
public
back into the dark.
databases where you can go buy profiles of people with all their contact information, their family history, and all that stuff. So what am I really going to do, right? But I'll tell people, hey, take me off your list, bro. I'm not interested.
It's like playing whack a mole. Oh,
Yeah,
got that
it
one.
really is because you pick up the phone and they're like, oh, add them to our call list. You're like, pump the brakes, homie.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
it's
I mean,
frustrating, but
the with phones, you have the cold calling systems, right? But you could send that out to an outsourced service, see what they can do with it. But also you have voicemails that you can send to people. Um, you can actually mix and match your strategy, right? Send them an email and have them call you, which follows up with a text. That's a random combination, but you can mix all three of those. At this stage, pick up the phone and call somebody. You know, they respond through a text. They're like, "Yeah, I'm definitely interested." Call them right away. Hey, Keith, this is Jared. I saw that you were interested. You know, and you can actually take that even further when you're applying analytics into your efforts, because there's been times where I'd send out some email marketing, see that people read it, and I'm like, let me call them. Hey, Keith, it's Jared. I was just calling to check in, see how you were doing today. And they're freaking out, like, what? I
that's
just
weird. I
read
just
that
read your
email.
newsletter. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just thinking about you. What are you doing? And it's creepy, but it's also very effective from a business perspective.
well, yeah, to attract some people, my industry is one of them where
Yeah,
people don't move every day. So you may not have,
right,
you can sell a house today. That person may not move for 5 years, 7, 10, 30. Who
yeah,
knows? So to stay on top of them and say, hey, I'm your local expert. Pick, use me for whatever services you need. You have to constantly kind of be in somebody's face, which is not
right.
easy to do
It
in the
takes a
short
lot of
attention span today.
interactions with people for them to even, excuse me, for them to be a customer. And so for you to be able to connect with them, I don't know, let's say that you text them, and here's a link to fill out our form that you asked for. They go fill it out, you follow it up with an email, and then later on call them, right? That's three mediums, three touch points in a single day. You know, hey, I saw that you filled out this form, just wanted to follow up with you, make sure I understand. Something as simple as that is insanely powerful. Oh, Keith, yes. Thank you for calling me. I was wondering about X, Y, and Z. It's crazy how mixing and matching those things is as a powerhouse. I mean, there's proven efforts and proven practices, but everything works. I know people. I have guys who swear by social media direct messaging, private messages, right? They'll send you a message on Facebook or Instagram or something. I'm like, dude, why do you keep doing that? because I hate it when people do it to me. I'm like, why are you doing this, man? I don't know you. You don't know me. What the hell?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, where's
And
the personal connection? Where's the
well,
at least some sort of a relationship?
I regularly block people. Let's put it that way. I block people all the time, almost every day. But I have a buddy who's like, hey, man, I might send out 100 messages, collect 3 clients, because that's the ratio that he has found for his industry. So he'll do 100 messages a day, 5 days a week, pick up 15 to 20 clients for this next month. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, dude, it's disgusting, but it works. Like, okay, I guess so. So again, that's another.
It's an option.
It is an option, yeah, and I mean that's another area where I'm not personally going to go do that to people, but I might hire somebody to do it, right?
I'm with you there. I'm the kind of person
I might hire a person on my staff, like, hey, your job's reaching out to people on social media. Go conquer the world.
It doesn't bother me to call somebody who I've been dealing with, or somebody I know, or like a warm lead that comes in where they have submitted their information. Like, I already know a little bit about this person, but in real estate, it's not uncommon for a lot of people just to pick up the phone, get a number, and call, and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so at such and such company. Are you looking to buy or sell a house today? Like, you don't even know that person at all, like what their situation is.
There's a lot of dirty dealings in the real estate world.
And they will just robocall those all day long, and that's one thing, like me personally, I'm not a fan of. Like I couldn't sit at my desk and just make phone call after phone call after phone call, and probably get chewed out a good 20% of the time. Of take me off your list. I'm on the do not call list. Like,
well, see, the plot thickens depending on your location as well. I'm not sure what state you're in. But
Illinois, so we're nice Midwestern people here, so people are maybe a little more receptive to things.
I had a client who was a real estate agent out of Texas, and I tried to convince him to hire a VA to do some of that grunt work, to respond to people, to call people and schedule meetings, right? And he's like, I can't, because they have to have their freaking license to be able to do this work. I'm like, what? That's insane. Yep. And so stuff like that really plays a factor into what can you do. And that's where I've seen a lot of people in real estate automate their messaging a lot, because they can't afford to hire somebody else and give them a cut of the commission, because that's what it's going to turn into.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules, between license law and code of ethics and a lot of things like that. You kind of got to figure out what path you're going to go down, and you have to kind of make sure that you're in compliance. And
you're part accountant, part lawyer, part salesman. You got to know it all.
Sometimes we're counselors too, when people are dealing with their problems, and I got this problem or that problem, or I don't have enough money to sell. I got to whatever. You run into all kinds of things, which makes it interesting because no two clients are the same. No 2 days are the same.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah. It's the joys of running a business. It makes it unique, so.
For sure.
Which makes that's why I love having conversations like this, because being a business owner and sharing this with people who maybe are thinking about getting into business, I've seen these things personally just like you have. So, all this is coming from real life examples that we've seen. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So.
And then some.
So next thing I wanted to ask you about was operations, because you kind of had listed on there outdated equipment, software, poor choices, something along those lines, and scams. Like what kind of stuff are you seeing there when it comes to the operation side of people in their business? I don't think you have scams listed.
People just make bad decisions. That's what it is. When it comes to the operation of any organization. Not just a business. It covers nonprofits and even government as well. People make bad decisions. They don't think through a problem objectively. They don't define what the root cause of the problem is, and then they try to cut corners. So you don't know what the actual problem is. You don't know what you want to fix, or you don't know where you want that solution to go, and you don't really want to do the work. That's how that translates.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
if you don't have a problem to fix, you don't have a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a problem, you don't have a solution.
Yeah,
So,
an organization is a living organism. It's changing constantly. It's molding and evolving every day, and being able to figure those things out and define them is going to be able to help you progress, right? And the reality is if you're not tracking anything, if you're not measuring your success, you're not going to be successful, right? That's why people look at a lot of people that are in sales spend their time focusing on their volume of their sales, right? Hey, I got 5 sales today, awesome, right? Well, if that could be I sold 5 boxes of toilet paper for $100, or I sold 5 Lamborghinis for 7 million, right? So context really needs to apply there as well. So some of those have to be volume-based orders, and some of them have to be quantity-based, and a lot of that plays a role into that. But if you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you don't know what the outcome is supposed to be, then how are you supposed to fix anything? That's crazy. Just like you for real estate, if you don't know what kind of house they want, you can't find it, right?
exactly.
And what's worse is you're in a sector where people don't even know what they want until they see it, which makes it even harder. Yep, I
That is
know. I know.
There's a saying in real estate that buyers are liars, because it's true. You meet somebody. If we were having a consultation and you tell me, Jared, all right, Keith, what I'm looking for is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ranch style home with a 2-stall attached garage.
Yeah,
Okay?
well,
We go look at 5 houses, and then all of a sudden you want a fenced yard and an in-ground pool, and you don't care about the style of the home anymore, and you'd really like a 4th bedroom. So by the time you buy something, you buy a 2-bedroom with 2 offices that aren't technically bedrooms, no pool, no garage, but it's got it's got wooded acreage.
Now, part of that is economical decisions, right? Because
And
people have
available.
unrealistic expectations of how things are supposed to cost. That's going to happen daily. But also, that boils down to people also don't know what they want, because they have this idea of, there's the idea and then there's the reality. People don't know how to juggle those two. And so the first time you're talking to people, it's usually the idea. 5 houses later, it's reality.
Well, a lot of things are shaped by, and I don't think it's just my industry too, but
it's just more obvious there.
Well, social media shows you, these fancy homes and all this stuff. And people are like, well, I want that. Like, who doesn't want the fancy granite countertops and the stainless steel appliances, right?
Of course. 2,000 square feet. Yes, please.
Yeah. Everybody wants that, those kind of things. But then you see shows like TV shows on HGTV and stuff.
Yep, all those remodeling shows.
A lot of young buyers, first-time home buyers, they see those and they're like, oh, that's what I want. Okay, that's great. But here in the Midwest, that's not what you're going to get.
Well,
you're
also,
pay a premium for that. What you're going to find is something that's still dated in the 80s, 70s, or 80s, might have some shag carpet, needs some updating. That's in your price range. It may have the bedroom and bathroom count, but you're going to have to put a little bit of sweat equity into it.
I've seen so much, because the hospital, back when I was getting physical therapy, that's the only thing they had on their TV in their waiting room. And so I couldn't tell you how many of those episodes I watched across HGTV and all the other channels like that. It's just the same stuff over and over again. They're like, oh, what's your budget for this house? I was thinking $600,000. What? Where are you buying this house from? Right? And it's like,
and he's a writer, and she is a butterfly collector.
Yeah. It's
like, how do you afford that?
Exactly. When I walked in to budget for my house, it's like, yo, I got 150 in this. Knowing I got the VA loan and I can go higher, like, nah, 150 is my target.
That's being smart, though.
Yeah. I start small and work my way up. So we ended up closing on the house. It's 1,700 square feet at $195. Not bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is this same house over in freaking Los Angeles is $5 million.
Well, that's why it's important to have a plan. Just like business, just like anything else. Get the education, talk to the experts, figure out what's really going on, And then when you're educated to a certain point, you can start
But-
making educated decisions.
But
and
see,
be
that's
smart about it.
homework for the customer. And
Well, the customer
customers
needs to do some
typically
homework sometimes.
they don't want to though. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
where that's where the business owner and the expert has to come in and do two very critical things. The first one is you have to educate them, right? I knew I had the VA loan when I went to buy my house, but I didn't know what my options were because I had no clue. I'm like, well, shit, what are my choices? You know, A, B, or C. Okay, let's do a little digging now. And my realtor ended up spending hours talking to me to try to figure out or to help me understand what was going on. And I'm phenomenally grateful for him for that.
Well, that's
'Cause
where the
that's-
value proposition comes in.
Yeah, exactly. But that education piece has to happen you're not selling fidget spinners. So everything else, especially on the service industry side, you have to educate. That's a requirement. No matter what you do, you're going to have to educate somebody on something. Be prepared. The other half of that is managing client expectations. And it's so much fun trying to do that because you find out real quick what kind of client you have whenever you try to manage their expectations. You're like, they'll come to me like, I got $1,000, but I want a website. I am not going to do that for you. I can't. At the rates that I charge, that's less than 10 hours of work, and I need about 40 hours to do the work. So you want me to work 30 plus hours for free? Won't be happening anytime soon, right?
Yeah, with a
And
budget
so
like that, you might be
that's
looking
the
at a
expectation.
WordPress site on your own. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like you can only spend $1,000 on a website. Listen, go to Fiverr, go to Upwork. That's going to be your best investment for your budget because it ain't going to be me. Because I can kick you off in the right place, but that still leaves you doing the brunt of the work. And doing those things from the beginning, I mean, I've pissed off people because of that. What? This one dude called me telling me he needed a logo. I'm like, all right, dude, well, I don't really know what kind of logo you want or how much effort you want put into it, but I'm like, it's probably going to be somewhere around $300 to $500 for a logo. He's like, oh man, that's out of my budget. And I'm
It's a
thinking,
pretty common price range for a logo.
it really is. It really is. But that's what he told me. And I'm thinking, okay, I hate this. I hate being put in this position because now I have to negotiate on price, right? And at that time, I still was doing that. These days, I don't care. It's like, okay, goodbye. But I felt bad. I'm like, okay, well, if the logo price turns out to be $300 and he's only got $250, can I work with that? Right. And at the time I was like, yeah, I think I could. If his budget's only like $200, could I finesse this to fit that mold? Okay, I could probably do that. So I decided to ask him, all right, dude, what's your budget? Instantly, $20. No, get the fuck out of here. Fiverr, FIVERR.com. Go. Nope.
You get a lot,
Don't waste
lot
my
of stuff
time with
done
that. Yep.
pretty decently over there.
Yep. Don't waste my time. Go. And,
Well,
and
that's what a lot of
sometimes,
businesses need to learn is to know their worth and know what their stress is worth.
yeah,
Like, you don't want to take on a client that is willing to pay $100 for a logo, and you're charging $200. Then they're just going to be angry and pissed off the whole time because you're charging them more than what they really
well,
want
that's
to
the thing
pay,
is,
and nothing's going to be right. They're going to keep coming back and trying to squeeze more value out of you.
Yeah.
You want that person that you're like, okay, $500 to do it, and they're thinking $1,500 is what it's going to cost, and they're like, all right, slam dunk, $500. I was thinking 15. Cool, do it.
yeah. Well, see, that sucks for me sometimes,
Well, yeah.
right? Because I'm
If you
like,
know that,
shit,
you're right.
I could have got another
But you, want,
$1,500,
but you want that person that looks at it and is like, that's worth the value.
right?
Like, slam dunk, you're going to do a great job. I know it. You're going to, roll out exactly what I want, make the tweaks and the changes, and I'm going to get what I'm paying for, and I'm going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
That-
See,
that
the
was my
flip
point,
side of that
but-
is value is a subjective measurement. There's a lady that sold a logo for $2 million. And it was a stupid looking logo.
Not to the
But
person
the
who bought it.
value that was placed on that logo was of high quality, right? There's just a GoDaddy and a lot of other companies last year went through a rebranding with their logos, and some of them look great, and some of them look stupid. And I guarantee you, they spent $100,000 plus on their new logo with R&D backed, metric based design, blah blah blah. Looks stupid. That's the reality of it. When Google went through and did their logos, their icons for all their apps, they went through and redid them all, and you couldn't tell what half of it was. And they used the same 4 colors for everything. So it confused the shit out of everybody. I had a buddy that went through, it's like, took 10 minutes, drew out new logos just on his pen and paper, took a picture of it. He's like, hey, Google, you can have this for free. And it was better than what they rebuilt, what they redesigned. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's probably had too many people sitting in an office debating on what was right.
Yeah,
and what was wrong.
that's the corporate squabbles. That's a lot of that.
Those kind of things are going to happen, but
for sure. But here in the small business sector, that shouldn't be a thing, and yet I'm sure it happens still.
It's the joys of running a small business. All of the different things that you don't have to do. This is definitely speaking to the people who are thinking about starting a small business. You're going to have to wear every hat, especially at first if it's just you. You're going to have to wear everything from accountant to social worker to finance, everything in between. You have to wear your legal hat, even though you're not an attorney or went to law school. You got to do it all until you figure out what you can ship out to a VA or what you can hire somebody to do, or
of course,
what direction you want to go do with certain things. So, I mean, it took me almost 10 years in the business before I finally hired a virtual assistant. And she's going to be the one chopping this up into some reels. And she does an outstanding job. It's something I should have done 8 years ago. But, you live and learn, right? That's the ups and downs. That's the ride that you take as a small business owner.
Well, on that growth trajectory, you're a lot more skeptical, right? Before you hired her, you're super skeptical. Is this going to work out? I can only pay X. I don't know if this is right. Now you're like, best decision I ever made.
Yeah,
and that's the reality of things. Is
this person's got skills. I could cut up a video. I could do that.
Yeah.
But it'll take me 10 times longer.
Of course.
And all kinds of other tasks. It doesn't matter what you could do. You could get a virtual assistant to do.
You can delegate a lot.
Anything. But you got to figure out what are those things that you absolutely must have to do, and then what can you give up? Is it okay if it takes a little bit longer? If you got to bounce back and forth with some revisions or something, that's fine. It's just time and work, and after a while, you'll figure out what both sides expect and what both sides can do, and it just kind of hit your groove.
Yeah, and the thing about delegation that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that, which, to be fair, I learned this the hard way. I thought back in the day I used to do jiu-jitsu full-time. Got some medical stuff going on. I can't anymore. But I used to do jiu-jitsu, 3 to 5 days a week and loved every bit of it. And I was a great student and whatnot. And then I reached a point where I had to start teaching. And I thought I knew the techniques until I started teaching. And I started having to second guess everything that I knew, because I had to figure out how to break this down in a way to be able to explain it to people who have no idea what I'm saying. And when you have to teach your expertise, you learn it very, very well. And so a lot of times, when you hired your VA, she's probably got some skills doing X, Y, and Z, but it's still on you to define what the SOP is. It's still on you to define what's that order of operations. What has to get done? What's the full checklist? What's the order when it should happen? And what's the final output going to be? And it's on you to be able to define all of these things at a very detailed perspective for that person to be able to replicate it.
Yeah.
And that level of detailing your SOPs is what people tend to forget when they're like, oh, yeah, I'll hire somebody. Wait a second. You got to know what you're talking about. You have to know it in and out, know it in your sleep. Until you're there, you're not ready to hire somebody to do those tasks. And a lot of people hire too early, and a lot of people hire way too late. So you got to be able to manage that timeline on when's the right time to hire. And so what I discovered was if I hit a consistent number of weeks, I've got a certain number in mind, but if I hit X number of weeks where the same time management problems are arising because there's too much stuff going on, then I need to farm it out. And it's, I have a day job, I have a business, I have a family. So there's still a lot of stuff going on. And so I factor those things into this calculation that I've devised. But, if I've gone 3 to 5 weeks in a row of not being able to do, this, I don't know, let's say that posting on social media is what I intended to do once a week, schedule everything, right?
Well, it goes back to that consistency, right?
It does go back to that
You're not
consistency,
getting it-
but
you're not getting it done,
if you're not able to upkeep that consistency because there's too much work, then you probably need to farm it out. But also, there's always a flip side of everything, right? The flip side of that is maybe you're not being efficient enough, and that's why it takes you so long to do stuff. So that's stuff you have to look at as well, right? Make the process as best as you can. And when you reach that point where it's time to hire out, make sure you can educate them.
Well, that's exactly like what I say with my virtual assistant and cutting up these videos
Yeah.
and other things. Could I cut the end off of a video or do some stuff in the middle? Yeah, but it's going to take me 5 times longer. It's just not an effective use of my time.
Yeah.
I need to be talking to clients
with that
connecting
time
with
that you
people
that 5-10 hours a week that you get back, what do you get to do with that?
yeah, income producing activities. That's what every business should be doing. Focus your time and attention on income producing activities, and if it's not, then farm that out to somebody else.
Yeah. Revenue generation is number one.
Well, that's the bottom line when it comes to business.
Yeah.
So, but a lot to unpack there, Jared, for people.
Yeah.
I know there's other
That's
things
for
on
sure.
your website. There's a million different things we could go, but there's a lot of problems, and I hope that business owners or prospective business owners take a moment to step back and reflect. And be truthful to themselves of like, where are my shortcomings? Where are my success? God, I hate to use another business term, but run a SWOT analysis on your own business. What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What's going on in your business, and that will tell you what you need to know to make educated decisions, and just go from there. But I don't think a lot of people are doing that. So there's an action plan item.
I'm not
all
going
viewers and
to.
listeners.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't think I've ever done a SWOT analysis for my company. I don't think I ever have done it. I just looked at. I document everything. If you saw my project management system, you'd freak out because I have templates on everything that's highly documented. I have SOPs that are highly documented. I have workflows and automations set up to do X, Y, and Z and to communicate with multiple functional areas. It's a work of art. So I've never focused on doing a SWOT analysis, but what I have focused on is optimizing things. Early on in my career, I got ingrained very deeply to leverage process improvement in everything that you do.
That's totally a military thing right there.
It really is. And it's not even like an after action review kind of thing. It's more like every day, what can I do better tomorrow? And that kind of has molded this into what it's become. Because I actually have live editable templates that I can quickly edit and overwrite the system template like a working file section.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have these documents ready to go at a moment's notice to quickly hop in, make my changes, save it, and all of a sudden the next time we go to use it, it's there, just with the quickness. And just something as simple as that, those quick adjustments on the fly 100 times a day or 100 times a week, making those things consistently adjusting, right?
You know what? One thing I do, for this podcast, well, I mean, I use Evernote for lots of other things, but I love Evernote because it syncs to all my devices. But like I've got,
You said
this is
Evernote?
Evernote, yeah. So
Yeah, I've got Google Keep.
yeah, I mean, using something like that, like I've got just on you here, right? I've got your name, CEO of Carbon Digital. Sometimes I get more information than others, but I have different things like interests and hobbies, past events, family, occupation, education, topic of interest that the person wants to talk about, military service. I copy all the links in there, their phone number, email address. I get all that off of the sign up stuff. That's where I write the title, the description, everything that goes into show notes. The questions. So I draft the questions during a pre-show interview when I do one to somebody I don't really know all that well.
Mhm.
I'll kind of draft notes and then I go back and I turn them into questions. And then I've got a checklist, and then I've got the email template that I copy and paste into email the night the episode goes live, saying, hey, your episode's going live tonight. Here's all the links where you can find everything. All of it is in one long note, all in one safe place. Anything I need for that particular show is right there.
Yeah.
And all I got to do is pull it up and copy and paste and just send stuff over,
Yeah, dude. I should probably show you ClickUp sometime. I do some gangster stuff, man. I've got order forms, custom built order forms that automatically create HubSpot contacts, automatically add you to email automation, automatically port you into our client management system, and then also put you into our project management pipeline from one form being submitted. And then from there, our various teams go in and do their work and start attacking. We have other stuff where onboarding automation happens, right? Our sales team actually had to build this for our sales team. They needed a way to be able to send out questionnaires whenever they're talking to people on the fly, right? They pop in for a 5-minute phone call, or the person only has 5 minutes to talk. Cool. Let's see what you're doing. Cool. And they crank out a questionnaire real quick. So I had to build that up as automation to expedite that workflow because they had a short window to be able to ascertain whether or not we want to go further with them. And since we actually moved this portion of the process towards the beginning, before we even really sat down and had a long conversation with them, we were able to collect a lot of project-related details before we even had our first conversation. Because then that
a lot of value
we're like,
data
listen,
in that.
we're at the time we were charging $150 an hour, right? So it's like, listen, we charge $150 an hour. That's a rate. Average website, we'll say 40 hours. It's this price. So that's an average of 5,000 to 6,000. So it's like, whoa, okay. Some people freak out and some people don't. You got to figure that out quick. But the sales team, they needed some automation kicked up. So that's what we did. So that entire pipeline from sales team to automation to HubSpot to questionnaire, all the way on to them actually becoming a client and being in our systems, and we're onboarding them as an official client now. 90% of that's automated, and it was automated out of necessity, not out of desire, because I wanted people to be interactive with this, but I needed automation. That's just the way it is.
Keeps things across. I mean, you think about, you call someplace and somebody, person A passes you to person B at the same company, different rep. They automatically have all your stuff up on the screen because the systems are all talking to each other. Everything's flowing. The information gets where it needs to be.
Something as simple as updating your CRM. The person finished their questionnaire. Put that into a workflow to be reviewed and looked at by a salesperson. Something as simple as that is insanely impactful. because
CRMs
now,
and how to use them could be a whole other topic for a whole other day right there.
well, that's probably a week's worth of time, which we don't have. But
Yeah.
you know, just leveraging those things is a phenomenal capability. The reality is that anything you want to do, we could do it. You could do anything you want to do because you're not the first person to ever ask this question, right? You're not the first. You won't be the last. We could figure it out. It's not the what, it's the how, right? Elon Musk is not trying to figure out what needs to happen to get to the moon or to get to Mars. He's trying to figure out the how because he knows what he wants. That's his goal.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
how is a different story.
Just like setting up a colony there. Like, okay, it's well known. Like, that's what the goal is: to do research and development and testing and all that stuff. But yeah, the question is how. Like, how do you put people up there long term? And there's health and safety, and how do you get them up there, and how do you get everything else up there to build a colony? It's a matter of time too, because you'll figure it out. It may take a year, it may take 10 years.
You could
It'll
wait
figure it out
25 hours trying to figure out how to integrate systems, or you could call me and I can give you a 3-minute spiel on it.
There you go. Well, if anybody
Kind of how
does,
things work.
if anybody does have anything, I got your website there, carbondigital.us. It'll be in the show notes too, so have no fear if you're listening to it. It's down there. You can find it and click it. So anybody needs anything, they can reach out to you. Jared does a lot of different stuff, as you can tell from our hour-long conversation here. A lot of knowledge, a lot of information in his head. So if you got questions, reach out and ask. And Jared, I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us.
Definitely, man. Glad to be here. I like having a conversation where we get to talk about how to make the world better.
Absolutely. If somebody just takes a couple of these pieces of information and actually applies a little action behind it, then they see changes to their business or their personal life that they never expected. And that's
Even
that's
if
their
this, my only goal in all of this is to spark interest in someone to go research it themselves. Because everything I've said you can find online. It's not even that hard to find it anymore.
Good point. It's
So
easy to find information.
If I could trigger Google search, I'm happy with that.
Awesome. Well, once again, I appreciate you being here and sharing.
Definitely,
with us.
man.
Yep. All right, there you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. As I always say, on my website, battlebuddypodcast.net, I've got information and resources on there about a variety of things. But if something's missing and you think it should be there and it's not, please reach out and let me know. I always like to add as much value there as I can. And if you're struggling for some particular reason, remember the National Suicide Hotline number is now 988-PRESS-1.